Ladies and gentlemen, we are live from the Isle of Man in the UK. This is Jon and Mike's MMA Corner.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am joined by the man himself from across the pond, James Lynch. Sir, pleasure as always to have you join me.
Pleasure's all mine, John. Always enjoy talking to you. I was thrilled when I got the message I was going to be back on Jon and Mike's, well, I guess just Jon's MMA Corner today, but very excited to be back here on the program, man. Appreciate it.
And obviously, you got your co-host with you behind you. It's great to see.
Yeah, Fuji Cat, who's actually from the UK. I didn't even tell you that. He was a cat we got from the UK, believe it or not, because British short hair seal points, you can't get any of them in North America. A lot of people think he's a Siamese, but he's actually a seal point British short hair.
Oh, nice. Okay, so you've got a bit of the British vibe in the home. That's great. And you're here to talk about a British card that's happening, so to speak, the UFC 204 card, which is happening there. Bisping Henderson, if anyone doesn't know. And if they don't know, they're going to be shocked when they get to find out that it's happening in Manchester. That's the thing, mainly. I spoke to you, James. It's a big thing that the fact that they brought a pay-per-view over, because by the by, it's not something they're very keen on moving across anywhere. They'll do it in Brazil, in Canada, because of the timescales, but they're bringing it to Manchester. I know it's going to be I'm going to be there. It's not going to be the best fun sitting there at 5 a.m. on an uncomfortable chair without a cup of tea in my hand and sitting on my sofa like I would do normally. But it's at least it's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I feel for you, you folk over there in the UK, because, we're spoiled here. We complain about the pacing of Fox events, but at least I'm not getting up at, 5 in the morning, trying to go watch some fights. So all the power to you guys. I think that's awesome.
So, look, let's talk about the fight card itself, because there is some interesting matchups that they decided to do. I'm happy with some of the matchups. Look, they're starting off with a debut as well, a British fighter, and they've added another lightweight to the already horrendously stacked lightweight division. Okay, now Mark Dieskey is a legit fighter. I think he's got an ideal opponent here, to be fair, to make his debut. A man who stepped in, Lucas. There we go. Zajelski, I'll do me. He's ideal really, because he's coming in. He's 0-2. Sorry, in his two UFC fights, he is literally having a fight to win. Now, he could try and play it safe and do the grappling just to get three rounds under his belt. But then again, do you think he might hit panic mode and just go for broke, and I could leave him open to the counters, to anything?
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. It certainly looks here like they want Daisuke. See, I even butchered his name. To get the win here. I think that you look at some of the matchmaking the UFC's done. I sort of think, from my perspective out here in Canada, when Misha Cirkunov made his UFC debut against Alex Nicholson, that was a favorable fight for Misha, because Nicholson hadn't really. It was Daniel Jolly he made his debut against. But that's what I'm saying. UFC is smart. They know what they're doing when they've got guys that are prospects and they want to build them up, and especially regionally. I think you're seeing that here with this fight as well. And, you just look at the records, Sajeski coming off 2 straight losses. They're matching a guy with 2 straight losses against a guy who's, undefeated. So, come on. I think this is a favorable matchup. And, the only guy that can really lose this fight is Mark himself, if the jitters get to him or whatever. But I think this is the type of fight that he'll thrive in. Yeah.
It's one of them ones where you think the only thing that can hit him is the jitters. And that kind of, the pressure he feels of making his debut and all the hype behind him. I think that's the only thing they could get to him. But on the regional scene, I know it's not the same, but he seems to be okay with stuff like that. His last bout, there's a lot of, let's say, conversations going on with his opponent on Twitter. Very, very professional-ish conversations. But he handled it when he went in there, and got the job done. So I'm looking forward to see how his debut goes. The next fight, the way they've arrange this card, I'm a bit surprised, because I love this fight and I can't believe it is second on the card. Leonardo Santos against Adriano Martins. Now, that fight is absolutely badass, considering Martins got KO'd, that head kick KO by Donald Cerrone, which was amazing. He has been on a tear since then. And De Santos, well, the pair of them are these two guys who are just coming up, and they've just improving lately. And I like Adriano Martins, if I'm honest with you. I've always had a bit of a soft spot for him as a fighter. I quite like him.
Absolutely. And he's getting up there in age, 34 years old, but, on the 3-fight winning streak coming off that big win over Islam Makhachev. And Santos, I mean, he hasn't fought at all this year. The layoff's a bit of a concern in this one, but he's got 3 really quality wins. He's got the Efren Escudero win. He's got the win over Tony Martin. And, of course, Kevin Lee. He shocked everyone when he finished Kevin Lee in that fight in the first round. I agree. This could be fight of the night. I mean, you've got 2 guys who aren't afraid to stand and trade in the pocket, 2 guys who certainly like to finish fights. I have to favor Santos in this one a little bit, even though he does have the layoff here. You got to take the guy who's just a little bit younger in this one. Actually, he's not. Santos is actually 36 years old. It's funny, sometimes you look at fighters and you forget how old they are.
12. It's that sunshine. It's just that sun-kissed skin, you see. That's what it is.
Yeah, from Brazil, absolutely. But man, this is an important fight for the division, too, because, a win here for either guy is really going to propel them and get them a top-flight opponent in their next one. And I think they're sort of just above that gatekeeper status at this point. But, an impressive win for either fighter is definitely going to propel them up the division. So I'm excited for this one, man. It's going to be fireworks.
Definitely, and I think that another fight as well, the main event, so to speak, on the fight card, Fight Pass prelims. I like they like to put a bit of effort into doing this now. Eric Winter's doing a good job with the Fight Pass thing. Danny Roberts against Mike Perry. Now there's that controversy with the Mike Perry and his corner and the afterwards in the last fight. And Danny Roberts, of course, I'm going to have a bit of a soft spot for Danny Roberts, the Brit. He looked he's looked fantastic in my opinion. He's at Black Zillions. He's only getting better. But Mike Perry, I gave him no chance in his last fight. And then he went out and that dude has got some power. He looked really, really impressive in my opinion. But to be fair, Danny Roberts is just technically, I think he's just a better fighter. He's quick and he has got power in his hands, Danny Roberts.
Yeah, we talked about favorable matchups early on this card, and I think this is another example that, Danny Roberts, you mentioned training at the Black Zillions, one of the best camps out there. And, you got Mike Perry, who, while he did finish Haigi Lim, I think Lim just had a bad game plan. I mean, this is a guy who's time and time again, just you think he's going to come through and really, get that vintage Haigi Lim where, he's going to go out there and knock out his opponent. And instead he leaves his hands down. He's open, he creates openings. And this is where Mike Perry took advantage. I think Roberts wins this fight. I completely agree. I think Hot Chocolate, he's got the skill set. He's a guy too that, the UFC's been searching for that next Michael Bisping, that next fighter that's, the Dan Hardy that they want to be able to market and things like that. And I think this is another perfect opportunity for Roberts, 29 years old in the prime of his career. I think they're expecting big things from him, and I think he can do that against a guy like Mike Perry.
Yeah, I do too. And I think that's probably why they put him on the prelim card, because obviously the Fight Pass prelim main event, because it'll get more eyes on him. There'll be a lot more people that can tune in to watch him, and it gets more exposure for him. And look, let's go up then. Now, this next fight, I like it stylistically. This fight, it ain't going to the ground. Leon Edwards against Albert Tumenov. Whew, when I heard that matchup get made, I got excited. I have to say that is probably one of the better matchups you could make in the welterweight division outside of, obviously, the top 15.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, Tumenov coming off that submission loss to Gunnar Nelson in his last fight. A lot of people were favoring Tumenov in that. They were writing off Gunnar Nelson. And, of course, Tumenov, didn't look that great in that fight. I think it was kind of, I don't want to say he was exposed, but I think that, the ceiling of where people thought Albert Tumenov was certainly wasn't as high as people had anticipated. And that was shown in that matchup. Now, Leon Edwards, he's the one loss that sort of stands out to me is the Kamaru Usman fight. I think that was a fight that people expected him to look a little bit better in. I know he's coming off the win over Dominic Waters, but I like Tumenov in this fight. I think if we're looking at the two fighters and who sort of has the higher ceiling, I think Tumenov is your guy for sure. And the odds makers agree here. If you're looking at the odds right now in 5 dimes, Tumenov is the favorite at -220. I think that's right about where it should be, unless for some reason Leon Edwards wants to take this to the ground. But like you said, he won't. They're going to try and stand and trade. They're going to be contesting for fight of the night as well. And I think you are going to see one of those back and forth affairs that we come to expect with both these fighters.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Tumenov is just stylistic with the skill set he's got on the feet. He's so much smoother. Like Edwards will try to plant those feet to put the power in, but Tumenov he's smooth, but he's powerful. Yeah, he's just a beautiful striker to watch. Yeah, there won't be any takedowns, ladies and gentlemen. The next fight up, I like that Davey Grant. He's getting regular. He had that long break, 3 years off, and he's getting a matchup. I think it kind of suits where he's going to be in the bantamweight division as well. Now you got Damian Stizak.
Like the wrestler.
Yeah,
remember there was Sean Stizak or Stizak? Yeah.
Stizak, yeah, that's what we'll go with. We'll go with Stizak.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you. Look, I think this is a good matchup for the pair of them, really. I think Davy Grant, he had a lot of potential 3 years ago. Injuries really wrecked him. And I think a slow build-up for him is required, but getting the fights and fighting regularly is a big key thing. Obviously, he got 3 rounds in his last fight, which is huge thing to get that kind of ring rust. And I don't care what anyone says, 3 years out now, there'll be a bit of ring rust. Helps get that timing right, get that sharpness back. I think this is a good matchup. I think the pair of them kind of on an even keel, really.
Yeah, I agree. And, I think the thing with Davy Grant is, like you said, we forget that he was, one of the favorites coming out of the Ultimate Fighter. And, he lost in the final there to Chris Holdsworth. But, coming off the impressive win over Marlon Vera, that was a fight where I saw a lot of people picking Marlon Vera in that fight. And, a big reason for that, like you mentioned, was the layoff. He came through in flying colors. I think the fact that he's going to be in the UK for this one, I think, it seemed like he thrived off that in his last fight. I think we're going to see that again in Manchester. And Stizak, whatever you want to call him, I don't think he's really up to par. You look at a lot of his, he lost his debut there to Meza. He's coming off the submission win over Filip Pejic. But I think that, again, was more of one of those regional matchups where they wanted to favor kind of the Polish guy in this one. But give me Davy Grant in this one. I think he's a great talent. He is 30 years old, but I think these are the type of fights he should win. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I think he should get the nod in this one. He definitely. The next fight, it's a very simple fight. There's only There's only 2 ways it's going to go. Ian Entwistle versus Rob Font. Ian Entwistle's going to go for a heel hook. Yeah. And if he doesn't get the heel hook, Rob Font's going to punch him in the face until he finishes him. And that's pretty much how that fight's going to go. There's not much else in that fight. It's very basic. It's very simple. The UK hopes that Rob Font goes in and smashes Ian Entwistle because I'll be honest with you, James, I'll inform you, he's a bit of a knobhead.
Knobhead? What does that mean exactly?
A dickhead.
Okay, fair enough. That's a new one. See, I'm learning stuff here on the show, not just talking fights. I appreciate that.
Education.
I talked about it on the parting shot today. My thing with Entwistle, the lack of activity. I mean, Font's been a lot more active than he has, at least in the last couple fights. And, Font went the distance with Lineker. And it's not like he was getting completely outclassed in that one. Font had his moments in that one. And, Lineker, just beat John Dodson last night. Controversial or not, he did get the W in that one. So I put a lot of stock in that. Font's, I think this is the fight where, in his last matchup with Lineker, he was a little too hesitant. Didn't want to fall into that trap of, brawling and getting caught like Francisco Rivera did with Lineker. So I think we will see Font a little bit more aggressive. Now, you can't get too aggressive. Anthony Burchak learned that lesson, when he got submitted by Entwistle. But you're right, John. Entwistle, the only way for him to win is to submit Rob Font. That's not going to happen. Rob Font's probably going to win inside the distance. Maybe a knockout, possibly a decision. But I like Rob Font in this one.
Yeah, Entwistle's a mental game for him. It's if you can't get the submission, he's mentally gone, and he just wants out. He wants a way out, and I'll be surprised if there's a big cheer for him. But there's going to be a big cheer for the next fight.
Yes,
Alcantara is going against Pickett, and I don't know any man on earth that does not like Brad Pickett. He is amazing as a person as well. He is hilarious. If you don't follow Snapchat, you've got to. He's absolutely priceless. The bet that he had on with Will Brooks was They had a bet for the Conor McGregor-Diaz fight. The loser had to do 100 press-ups, but then Brad Pickett makes him do 5 press-ups just randomly and always snaps it. So, even mid-training, Will Brooks is training, Brad Pickett will just go, 5. Will Brooks about to get in his car and go home, 5. Makes him do it anywhere. It's fantastic. But, Brad Pickett as well, he got that all-important win in his last fight, which was, for him, it was almost like a make-or-break win.
Absolutely.
Badass fight, mate, and I think I think it's like a revival for him. Getting that win, the last one, all the demons he had in his head. I think we'll see a lot more of Brad Pickett in this one than we would have previously. I think it's almost like he's got a bit of weight off his shoulders getting that last win.
Absolutely, and we have to remember, too, that this fight was supposed to take place at UFC Fight Night 93. Pickett got injured, so they rebooked this one. And, I actually like Brad Pickett in this fight. I think this is an opportunity for him to thrive off the hometown crowd. I mean, we saw him get the win over Francisco Rivera in his last matchup, a fight that a lot of people, like you said, were writing him off. 3 straight losses, to Ian McCall, Camus, and Thomas Almeida. Alcantara, here's my thing with him. On paper, he is the better fighter. I mean, there is no question at this point. I think Alcantara has proved his worth, but there are times when he does come up short. We look at the fight against Frankie Sain. He was a huge favorite in that fight, and he ended up losing that one. He's coming off the loss to Jimmy Rivera. No shame in that. Jimmy Rivera is the future of the bantamweight division. But I think this is a case where Pickett could come through, especially, he's a tough guy to finish. He's a guy who likes to make it competitive. And if it does go to the judges' scorecards, I got to favor Brad Pickett in this one. So I'm going to take him. And, right now, he, I believe, is plus 145 on the betting odds. I might throw a little stab at Pickett there. I think he can get it done. Let's forget about the age. He's 38. Alcantara's getting up there, too. He's 36. So I'm going to take Pickett on this one.
Yeah, exactly. I think I would probably take Pickett. Just there's a lot of playing into it. And look, let's go with. Also, he's had teammates like Jake Boswick from the UK, who he's trained with down in the UK. They trained with for years, got the win this weekend at ECB. So there's a little bit of a kind of push going on. And Stu Austin as well from his team in the UK. He got a win as well at Euro FC, so there's a little bit of a vibe going on with him, positivity going around him, so hopefully it rubs off. At the moment, sadly, I'm not very happy. Jeremy Kennedy what is going on? He signs the fight and then he gets injured. What's going on, lad?
Well, here's the weirdest thing, John. So I interviewed Jeremy Kennedy this week when I was on vacation in Vancouver, and I saw him train, and he looked all good to go. And I saw the UFC, make the announcement that he had the fight. So, I was still in Vancouver. I texted him. I said, hey, congrats on the fight, blah, blah, blah. And he told me right away that fight was not happening. And then, of course, Junkie comes out with the report that he was injured. So I'm guessing he got injured at some point this week. Kennedy's a guy we were talking about matchups as far as, who he wanted to fight next. He was ready to go. So I don't see him turning down an opportunity like this. I believe the injury is real. And I know he wanted to get back in there as soon as possible to kind of, really show people that, the Alex Ricci fight, there was more that he can show in that one. So the latest right now is Jeremy Kennedy is not fighting. And hopefully he's not too injured, because I'd like to see him on that Toronto card.
Yeah, I hope so too. Yeah, maybe switch him up to that. And also I want to see them not scratch a fight off the card. I'd like to see if they can find someone to step in, a replacement.
Andre Harrison, man, that's the guy. I mean, you and I both interviewed him. I understand, the UFC's not a fan of the fact that he keeps going to a decision. He's not finishing these fights, but man, 14-0. He's fighting top guys. Desmond Green just got the win over Popo Bazeja, former Bellator tournament finalist. I mean, you can't ignore that. Andre's the guy for me. If I don't know what's happening with his management or whatever, but you got to get him a fight. I mean, Andre's brothers in the UFC. Andre's not in there. He's undefeated. My vote is for Andre Harrison if they can make it work.
I would like that. I would love that. Get him on a plane right now. Just fly him over there. I would love it. I don't know. Like you say, again, it's a decision thing, but when he's fighting beasts like Steven Siler, I'm not being funny. Yeah. Steven Siler ain't no joke. The dude is an absolute beast to finish as well. So it's like, come on, give the guy a break. I don't know what these guys expect, but, look, hopefully Andre gets the nod. I don't know if they might just wipe the fight off the card. Who knows? But look, they're doing what they're doing. A fight that I'm a little bit let down, a little bit gutted about, because of whoever stepped in. Stefan Struve against Daniel Omel. Here we go.
I think it's a Milošević.
Yeah. Milošević. Now that Daniel has got the biggest cranium I've ever seen in my life. I met him in Glasgow, and I got a picture with him, and then when I saw the picture, I thought I looked like a dwarf next to him. Like his skull, he's not tall. He's just got this enormous skull. But either way, this is big versus small. This is almost like Mark Hunt versus Stefan Struve kind of style list.
Yeah.
Now, I've spoken about this before, and I'll say it again, James. I'm sorry to bump into him, but Stefan Struve needs to start showing what he is. Now, he's starting to get older as a mature adult. He's starting to get, that kind of ripe age as a heavyweight. He needs to start using that range, which he should be doing. I think it's all a mental battle for this guy. He's got so much there. Like on the ground, he's an absolute monster. Like no one's going ground. It's just on the feet. He just keeps getting caught, and he shouldn't be getting caught. Perfect opportunity. I was hoping Ngannou would get brought into this matchup because I thought it would be an awesome fight to have, but it's not. We've got this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let's say what it is. I mean, Struve is getting another favorable opponent in this one. I think they're hoping that he'll be the next great thing. But, John, we have not learned anything about Stefan Struve in the last couple of years. As far as I'm concerned, he's still the guy that, you know, is not reaching his potential. And I think that fight against Mark Hunt, I still go back to that fight when he broke his jaw. I don't think he's been the same ever since. Now, we look at the fact that he's 2-2 in his last 4 fights. He lost to Overeem. He lost to Rochelle by decision. His 2 wins are against guys that probably, well, one definitely is not in the UFC anymore, and Big Nog. And Antonio Silva, Bigfoot, I mean, he should be cut at this point because he's had a couple knockout losses in a row. So what is that? It doesn't tell us anything as far as those wins. I mean, yes, he got the win, but I think, you know, anyone could, at this point, could pretty much knock out Antonio Bigfoot Silva in the heavyweight division, unfortunately. So what happens in this fight? I think Struve probably wins the decision. I think he kind of picks his shots. I mean, you mentioned the size difference. Omilchuk is only 6 feet. He's 34 years old. Struve's 28. He's 7 feet. Struve's winning this fight by decision. He might finish him, but again, very underwhelming fight in my opinion. And I'm not sold on Stefan Struve. I mean, if he goes out there and knocks this guy out in the first round, I still don't think that says anything because Omilchuk, not exactly the greatest opponent. So I think Struve will win though.
No, I'd like to see it though. At least if he does it in the first round, I'd like to see him do it with a bit of class, using range, picking and finishing him. Then at least we could see there's something there rather than just winging the fight. I think there's so much in Struve that he's that's the next level. He just keeps falling short. I really do feel it's all kind of mental in that side of things because he's shown moments in fights where he looks fantastic. As for Bigfoot Silva, I think it's 1 win in 8 he's had. I'm astonished. I don't know. I think the UFC just literally keep him because they're scared to tell him he's not coming back.
Yeah, I completely agree.
This next fight, wow, this one has a lot of fireworks. I'm going to favour the OSP in this one. But yeah, you got Over St. Preux against Jimi Manuwa. When I heard that matchup get called, I was like, yes, love it. I said the Robin Black, and I'll say to you, this is huge for both parties. The pair of them are on that cusp of the top, kind of breaking into the top 5, being considered as a contender. Now, obviously OSP had the Jon Jones bout, short notice, albeit. I think he did well. I think he did as well as can be considered as Jon Jones. I think people need to take that in consideration that it's Jon Jones. It's not like he stepped in against some nobody. Boom. Jimi Manuwa, he's had a couple of fights, like the Gus fight and the Anthony Johnson fight. He's shown that he's keep falling short of those top echelon guys. This one for them, it's a really tough fight because the pair of them both need that win to prove that they're up already to get up to that next level.
Yeah, it's really a shame with Jimi Manuwa that he's had so many injuries and he's been off, just not fighting that much. He's 36 years old. I mean, I remember when he came into the UFC, he was thought as one of, sort of the next great hope in the UK, and it just hasn't panned out that way. I don't know if it was smart for them to give him Gustafsson, that fight way back on the main event card at UFC Fight Night 37. That set him back a little bit, but he's just had injury after injury and just hasn't been that active. And that's why I do like OSP in this fight. And actually, I'm looking at the betting odds here. OSP is the favorite at -155. I think he could be a 2-1, if not a 3-1 favorite in this one. I'm sold on OSP. OSP is one of those guys, unfortunately, who will never get a title shot probably because he loses to those top guys. But you know what, John? He's not getting knocked out. He's not getting, submitted, right away. Although Glover Teixeira did submit him, but he's a tough guy to finish. You have to go all the way back to 2009 to find OSP's last knockout loss. And a lot of people feel like Manuwa can be the guy to do it. I don't think it happens. OSP, I think, is a little bit more well-rounded, and I like the fact he's younger. He's also competed a lot more than Manuwa. So, it's unfortunate, but I think this is going to be another loss for Manuwa. And, again, fighting for the first time this year. He hasn't fought since that KO loss to Anthony Johnson at UFC 191, so it's a bit of a layoff for him.
Probably because his head was rattled quite a lot. I'd probably need a break if I got knocked out by Anthony Johnson, but yeah. Do you know what I think? I think what made a big difference to Jimi Manuwa was when he broke his foot and he was meant to fight Shogun. I think if he had that fight with Shogun and that break didn't happen, he probably would have beat Shogun, if I'm honest. Would have been too big, too powerful, would have probably beat Shogun, and that would have set him on his way, but that, like you say, since then, it's just not panned out for him very well. Again, OSP, I'm probably going to bet on OSP as well myself. Okay, co-main event. Your favourite, Vitor Belfort, of course, we're talking about. Yeah, Vitor Belfort, Gegard Mousasi. Now, I want to basically say it's Gegard versus a deflated balloon, because that's how I see Vitor Belfort. When I meet him, I'll probably be a bit fanboy and starstruck. I'll be like, I remember when you were 19 and you were juiced up off your gills and you were, I remember you. But yeah, it's a crazy moment. Like, this is for Gegard. Like, he has, like, this is the best opportunity he can have, mate, to make a huge statement for himself against the name, because that's all. Vitor is a name, right? He's not going to win a title again unless he can get a TRT exam out of nowhere and suddenly look like action man figure Vitor, which I won't lie, I love that Vitor Belfort, but dude, man, his dad bod Vitor. Let's all accept it. And now I think, getting on, as long as he's on point, he should go in here. And I would not be shocked with the first round, but if he just weathers that storm, he'll just pick Vitor in a second.
Yeah, and the big thing with Gegard Mousasi, his last couple of fights was, people weren't happy that he wasn't finishing fights. And what does he do against Uriah Hall? He does that, and he gets caught, and he paid the price for it. I mean, that's a fight where I think 9 times out of 10, Gegard Mousasi beats a guy like Uriah Hall. And that was the last fight against Thiago Santos on the biggest stage ever at UFC 200. He goes out there and finishes him in the first round. That, I'm sure, for him was a huge weight off his shoulders, and it said that, you know what, I am a force in this division, because we have to remember, it was a couple of years ago he fought Jacare in the rematch. He got embarrassed in that fight. I mean, Jacare completely outclassed him. It wasn't even close in that one. So I think Mousasi proved in that last fight that, hey, look, I still belong here with the top guys in that division. Now, Vitor Belfort, you referenced it there. He has not been the same guy since he's been off TRT. This is a fight that was supposed to happen, if you remember. I believe it was 2008 or 2009 in an affliction before that card ended up getting canceled and the promotion actually folded with the whole Josh Barnett controversy with getting busted for steroids. So this is a fight that Gegard's wanted for a while. He's called Belfort what he is, steroid cheat and all this. There's a lot going into this one. Gegard's going to come through in flying colors. He'll get the first round or second round TKO on this one. I have no doubt about it.
Yeah, I'm with you as well. I think anyone other than Vitor is thinking the same thing. And the main event, wow. I remember watching Bisping in the Tough series, and when he got to the final, and him and his family and his little boy, and I remember watching all that, and then watching Bisping getting knocked into the stratosphere by Dan Henderson at UFC 100, and now he's getting that rematch. It's a bit nuts, but to be fair, I think Bisping has done so much for the company, being a company man. He stepped in short notice against Chael Sonnen. He's that kind of man that Dana would call upon, and Bisping would step up. And I think Dana's kind of said, look, this is my way of saying thank you. You can have that one defense in your hometown. And he said Bisping, Dan Henderson, and he gave it. I like that. I do love it. I'm probably going to favour Bisping. If I'm brutally honest as well, he should finish Henderson with a left head kick, because that's how Vitor stopped twice in a row with the same move. I don't know why no one's doing it. Obviously, Henderson could finish it any time, any second, but Bisping should win this fight.
Yeah, this is one of those fights. I mean, it is intriguing because Henderson always does have that Hendo bomb, and he could land it at any point. But Henderson has not improved at all, since the last time they fought. I mean, Bisping has. Bisping just knocked out Luke Rockhold, and wasn't a lucky punch. He went in there and he finished Luke Rockhold, who I still think is, if the best or if not, second best middleweight in the world right now, as far as I'm concerned. Bisping's going to win this fight in the first round, I think, if not the second. But I mean, Henderson got lucky in that fight against Lombard in a way, because, he almost got knocked out in that fight. Vitor knocked him out in the fight before that. So Bisping's getting better every fight. Henderson, still a lot of question marks. I love Dan. Nothing would be better. Trust me, nothing in MMA would be better than Dan Henderson winning the title and retiring. That would be that would probably be the best story of all time in MMA.
Yes.
Maybe not for the UK fans, but for, a lot of people who are fans of Dan Henderson, that would be definitely the right thing to do. But man, Michael Bisping's going to win this fight. I just don't. I can't see Hendo making lightning strike twice. And I should say he didn't make lightning strike in that first fight. Hendo was still, knocking guys out, and that like way back then. But he's not going to do it this time. And I do want to recommend a prop bet here, because I did happen to notice it today, and I was a little surprised. Michael Bisping wins in round 1 right now. If you guys do bettors out there, is currently plus 350. If Bisping gets the finish, I could see him doing it early, especially against a guy like Dan Henderson.
I like those odds, yeah. Well, I tell you what, even though I am from the UK, I'm Manx, and classes Manx, which would not I won't get into politics of it. Anyway, I would still love to see Dan Henderson hold a UFC title and walk away. He's the guy who's been around for so long. He's a legend, etc. My heart is torn, because at the same time, Bisping's a Brit. He's brought the event over. But then again, I'm so happy he got to win it. But I'm thinking, well, he's won it now. You've got it. Give Henderson it, and then the two of you can go on your way. It's horrible. Like, it's horrible because, like, when I see Dan Henderson, I'll just look at him as like a legend as he is, and yeah, it's a tough one. But yeah, I like those odds. I might have to go online myself after this and have a little look at that because it's nice little numbers there. But yeah, James, UFC 204. I'm going to be watching it live in the arena. I'm sure you'll be tuning in stateside and watching the event, my friend. I'll be sitting there with Will Martin. It'll be awesome. And Mike, James, what's that T-shirt you're wearing, by the way, brother? I like it.
Right here, Parting Shot Podcast T-shirt. Here, we'll get a little good view there. Let me just make sure the camera looks good and everything. People can see it. You can get these shirts at Redbubble. I have the link on MMA Oddsbreaker. Every time we post the podcast on there, you can get the shirts there. I'm not trying to make money off them. If you're a fan of the show and you want to buy one, cool. It's greatly appreciated. I love the support we've been getting the last couple of years doing the show. And then, of course, I have my one-on-one show on Skype as well. But, yeah, your listeners can check that out there. And, if you guys do it, I'll be very happy. So I appreciate it.
I will push all that stuff out. Also, I would get a T-shirt, but I know odds are the shipping will be out the arse to the UK, well, to where I am anyway.
I think it's actually decent. I know they do ship to the UK though, because it's Redbubble. You'd have to double check on that. I imagine it. I don't know, but I just know they do ship to the UK. So that's a good point. Trust me, we suffer here in Canada too with shipping. It's even from the States, we still get dinged a lot of money for whatever reason. So it's I feel the struggle, man.
Yeah, honestly, I'll have a look. If it's not going to kill me, I'll do it because I saw the MMA Hour had a T-shirt. I thought, it looks kind of cool, little funky T-shirt they had. And the shipping was more, I think, 3 times worth the T-shirt. And I thought, I don't want it that bad.
Yeah.
But yeah,
exactly.
It's a killer. But honestly, James, thank you so much for your time, my friend. I love speaking with you. I love having these conversations. I want to say have a great time for foreseeable future as always. I love your work. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to put links up on, I want to have little stuff popping up on YouTube here and there and everywhere. So, James, have a great week. Enjoy the fights. I will enjoy the whole event when I'm there, my friend.
Awesome. Thanks again for having me on, man. Just quickly, Lynch on Sports on Twitter. I love doing this show, man. I'm game anytime you want to have me on, and vice versa. Got to get you back on the podcast because definitely enjoy talking some fights with you. And dude, enjoy the fights. It's going to be, I know it might not be the most stacked card in the world, but I mean, Dan Henderson can make history. There's lots of good fights on this card. So enjoy, man.